Okay. All right, so hopefully it'll work now. Okay, so I think it's working. All right, so now we are done with the slides, and we're gonna move to the Word document. Okay, so this is the lab basically. So I'm gonna go to table of contents. And then I'll start the VM in a bit, and we're gonna just do some examples, very basic stuff. Hopefully be able to do an SNMP walk. All right, so under SNMP, Word doc. Okay, so these are the instructions. Okay, so as you can see, you're going to configure the agent, right? Configuring this process would be similar for every agent. So remember, we've already described an SNMP agent would be something that you're querying. And I'll go over, basically these are the instructions. And then you can configure also a manager. And the manager is where you're going to collect the data and display the reports, if you will. So this is, if you notice, is where we would want to run Ph.D, which is this program, which is the tool that we're going to use to display SNMP data. Make sense? All right, so if we scroll down here, this is actually a screenshot from Ph.D. So this is what you will need to generate as part of the lab, okay? So if you look at this, this is localhost. So localhost is probably a Ubuntu VM, and then you're querying memory usage. So that's one variable in that MIB. You need to collect it Saturday to Sunday, not that long, but definitely a few hours, couple hours, and then it's going to show you the utilization. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's ultimately the lab. But for you to be able to generate these graphs, you have to do all the configurations. In the past, I used to do a Windows and a Linux computer, and but nowadays I just do 2 VMs, perfectly fine. All right, and then you'll have a few problems, which are basically your problems are gonna be, and I don't think I'll be adding any new problems. So after you've done the configuration, add some graphs for your device and describe the results. For the selected device, find the and then these are the instructions basically. But yeah, really just have to add some graphs. Okay, all right, so let's go to the beginning here. And I think somewhere in here, I also have some scripts. Yeah, so we'll do some scripts. But let's start here. Let's start with a SNMP client. So that'll be our first goal. Notice that I have these screenshots here, right? I have two screenshots. These are really important, and usually pay attention to this part because I've noticed in the past that this is where, in one part, where students get stuck, okay? So basically, these screenshots here show the access control configuration so that one manager can query an agent, okay? So you guys have to do this as it's Linux. You're going to do this on a text file, right? It's going to be a file that you're going to find and you're going to modify. So my recommendation is find the file, this file, comment out everything. When I say comment out, means that you put a £sign in front of it, every row. And once you've done that, then start adding these things in there, okay? Because otherwise, I've noticed in the past that it might not work. Okay, but if you comment out everything first and then start adding these things in, then it'll work. So, okay, so let's access control just briefly. It's got 3 sections or 4 sections, I think. So the first section should be this. These com to sec. That's the first section that you have to do. Then the second section is these groups here that you have to do. The third section is these access that you do here. These are the actual where you give the permissions, basically. And then there's a 4th section which has to do with these views, okay? And there's like one view there. So you have to basically configure these 4 parts in that file, okay? So just briefly, com2sec is basically where you say you're going to create local and my network, and that's going to be used to define the password, right? So that's going to be the password. So this means that the local machine can query this, and also that the network 192.168.189.0-24 or /24 is the only network ID that can query these machines. So this would have to match the management network ID. Okay, guys? All right, so you have to do this right. You know, in your case, it'll probably be like 10.0.2 something, right? Otherwise, the manager will not be able to query this client. But because we're specifying this as localhost, then the localhost machine will be able to query itself. After you create these communities here, then you establish the version. So you see version 1, version 2, and that's by doing these groups. So you're going to create group V1, and you're going to add into it local, okay? And then notice down here that these groups, my RW group and my RO group, are referenced here. And that's where you specify the permissions that you give these groups. So in this case, if you notice, you can see that this is like the column, right? So it says write permission, none, but read permission, all. All right, so this is really important, okay? So just set it like that. And then finally, just specify that you want to view everything. So you just start at .1 basically, and that should be enough. Okay. So anyway, this is what you have to do. So let's start at the beginning, kind of play with this. So we're going to configure the agent. And this process would be similar for every agent. Wherever you see 1204, I just mean, you know, C2004. So remember, for this lab, you only need to use one manager and one agent. Let's go ahead and do the local configuration first. So going to install SNMP. So let's start VirtualBox. We're going to start VirtualBox. So this is the start of the lab. So I'll just do one VM right now and just demo with that. And then on Thursday, we can look at them, you know, both of them. Let's give it a minute. Right. Now my machine may already have this installed because I think I used this last year, but you guys probably won't have it. I mean, you can start before me if you want, just follow the instructions. But basically what I want to do is an SNMP walk of this device. So we just want to get started with some of the commands. Yeah, please.
What are the instructions called on right stage?
Yeah, so for the instructions, you need to go to the content. Table of contents.
Just that, I think it's hidden.
Yeah. So then go in. So I have two modules here, SNMP and then an SNMP web. This is just something that we'll talk about later, but for now, we're just focusing on this one, okay? So look at the Word document there.
Yeah, I think you have it hidden, because I can't see it on mine.
It's hidden?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
I think on this screen here, there's a little like I.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know. All right, great. Yeah. All right, yeah, that should be the lab. All right, so we're doing this, okay? So our first thing is to install. So we're gonna do sudo apt-get install SNMPD and then SNMP. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's log in. Okay, so we're gonna open a terminal. Okay, just do sudo apt-get install SNMPD. Okay, already have it. And then SNMP. And I already have it, but you guys probably had to install it, I assume. All right, great. So if we follow the instructions in the Word doc, now run an SNMP walk to see if you can retrieve some data on the command line. So SNMP, we're gonna run this command, SNMP walk -v2c, that's version 2c. -c, remember that's the community string, or also known as the password. The password would be public, and then 127.0.0.1. All right, so let's do that. SNMP walk. -v2c -c public 127. All right, so that works for me. Did it work for you guys? It worked for all of you? Yes? Yeah. All right, great. All right, so yeah, so that's it. Yeah, that's SNMP, right? So you were able to interact with it. You got some variable, you can you can look at these, of course. Some variables won't have values, some will. It's just, how it is, but there's a lot of them. Okay. All right, so that, so you guys say you were able to look at it. Okay, so we're gonna go in and check out this file. So we need to configure the snmp.conf file to define several parameters for SNMP to work. All right, so let's go here. etc snmp snmpd.conf. So we'll need to sudo privilege. Okay, so I open the file and we can take a look. Oh yeah, the video generated. Let me just grab this video. All right, so I'll post that later. All right, so let's go back. So let's take a look at the file. So this is the file that you want to configure, right, for other managers to be able to query this machine. So it's got things like system location, access control, so you can see. So please check this. Well, hopefully you're following along. Is this information in yours? Probably not, right? Like you don't have this, I assume. Nope. Yeah. So this is the configuration that you have to do, right? So in my case, you know, I was playing with it. So if you want to change this, for instance, when you can query sys location. That's a variable in the MIB. Change this to whatever you want, and then that's the thing that you'll be able to query. Same with the system contact. You can put your name and email there. That one's okay. You can do that. Then this one has to do with the access control. So like I explained, you use conv2sec. So this local is for the local host. This one is for the network, okay? So what this means is computers usually manage, network management computers will be in a specific network, right? So they'll have a specific network ID. So they would be like in the 10.02 network, right? .0/24. So then that's if your management computer belongs to this network, then this agent will let it query its variables as long as it also provides the variable. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. Right. And that's it. That's the security of it, basically. I don't think since we're using version 2C, we don't have encryption here. Okay. Notice that then my local and my network are going to be tied here to these variables, my ROG group and my rwrite group. Okay. So, and with the versions, and then here in this third entry, we just specify these are for the network and local, right? So notice local v1, local v2c, local USM. So these are versions. And then basically here we provide the permissions. So if you want to play with writing, although this lab does not involve writing, you would change this, right, to something else. And I encourage you to try it out if you would like. However, for security reasons, as I said, it's usually not recommended. And hopefully that makes sense. But here you can see read is specified, and you have all read access. And then just add view all included so that you can query all variables. So that's what that entry should be for. And that's it. There shouldn't be anything else in here. Yeah, there's nothing else. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, so that's basically it for the configuration. Okay. All right, so we were able to query, and I showed you the file. That's where you have to do the modifications. So let's go back to the Word doc. All right, so we have done, if you get a timeout when you're querying from the agent, from the manager to the agent, it's because you haven't specified this information here, okay? But for the local machine, this should work. Now, I showed you how to access this file, so we've gone to that file. I've described the file. Okay. So basically that. Oh, I did have a bullet 19. You can change sys location and sys contact to your own information, and you can query that a little later. Okay, we might want to, if you want to restart SNMP, we can do sudo service snmpd restart. Sudo service snmpd restart. All right. We do sudo netstat -na pipe grep UDP. We have port 161 here. Do you see that? So that's basically the SNMP port, which is now open. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the Word doc. Oh, and this, you can also use Nmap, but I just use netstat instead. It's the same thing, same idea. I think I used to do Nmap, but I prefer netstat nowadays. All right, so what do you see? This is the same as an MP walk, so we've done that. This is just an example. If you have more complex networks and you don't want to do the math calculation, you can use this nice little tool called ipcalc. It's very handy. You can try it out if you like. All right, so let's now switch gears to the next step, bullet 35, which is scripting, right? So we're going to write a Python script. So the scripts will run with Python. First, we need to install SNMP. I probably already have it, but it says here it's sudo apt-get install Python. Okay, so I think this is easier than that. Probably. All right, let's go. -L. Let's see if we can't figure it out. So let's see first if I have it. So then import SNMP. Don't have it. Okay. Okay, so it's installing. Import .s. Yeah. So I have it now. So how did I do that? So I used pip install, right? So you guys, can you guys use pip install on the command line currently? No, right? It shouldn't work. Guys. Nope. No. So you guys, so there's a couple of ways to install things. So at this point, what we're gonna do for the rest of today, I want you guys to do is to change your terminal to have this base there. Do you see that? And the way that you're going to do that is to install something called Anaconda. So you can go to a browser. And that has to do with version control. So this was very useful. So go into a browser here, like Google. And now look up something called Anaconda. All right, so here it is. So Anaconda. So you can download it from here. And basically, this is a tool that is going to allow you to create multiple environments. Okay, so that we can, so that way you can create an environment and then you can install software on that environment specifically. Does that make sense, guys? So go ahead. I already have it, but this is used by a lot of people. It's very useful. And, I highly recommend it. Okay, so probably if you click on free download here, it'll take you, and here it says Windows, Mac, and I think that's a Penguin, right? So yeah, Linux. So just download the version for Linux on your computer. Probably the first one is just an installer. Go ahead and run it. And then hopefully once you finish the installation, you will have a terminal that looks like this. And once you have this terminal, then I'll show you how to use Anaconda for version control, and so you can have multiple environments for your, things that you do. Does that make sense, guys? Questions? All right, so go ahead and try it and let me know once you've installed and once you get basically base on your terminal. So once you've installed Anaconda, every time you open the terminal, now it's going to look different. It's going to have this, and this will allow you to start developing in a more efficient way, more efficient. I'm going to pause this video.